This is the highest hurricane warning. I need to move to shelter right now.
Scrolling line from the same live hurricane report tracks.
This is where it all starts. You give it a first frame. The last frame is totally optional, but it changes everything when you use it. Prompt is much more important than most people think. A lot of people lose quality right here. The model already sees the frame. What it still needs is clear motion, camera behavior, pacing, and boundaries. If the prompt stays vague, the shot starts inventing its own movement. But when you tell it how the action unfolds, how the camera behaves, and what must stay stable, the result feels much more intentional. These guides are what keep the shot from falling apart between frames. When they are too weak, the motion starts drifting away from the path you actually want. You notice it in the movement, in the face, and especially in the way the shot lands at the end. So on the left, the shot is under anchor. On the right, it is properly locked in. Same setup, much cleaner result. These guides help control how the shot moves between the first frame and the last. But this layer is what makes that transition feel smoother. Without it set right, the model still gets there. But the path through the middle gets rough. Seed is not just a random number. In this kind of first and last frame setup, the start and the ending are already anchored. What the seed changes is the route between them. So when I am still searching, I let the seed randomize. If I see a direction that works, I create a fixed seed. And when the queue gives me a result I actually like, I lock that exact seed. Here the setup is the same every time. Same first frame, same last frame, same prompt, but the motion path changes. One seed pushes the energy straight forward. Another seed makes it curve. Another one gives you a wider, slower build. That is why I do not treat the first random result as final. I look for the route that fits the shot. Once I find the version that has the right motion, I take that seed and lock it. For this example, that seed is 510041. Now the next run is no longer a new guess. It follows the same motion idea again. After the motion pass, I usually don't treat the first render as the final image. This stage is where the shot gets cleaned up and sharpened. But the important part is not just the spatial pass. After the upscale, I lock the first and last frames again. That means two guide images, the first frame at index 0 and the last frame at index 120. The first guide is strong. The last guide is a little softer. That gives the model enough structure to stay on track, without forcing the ending too hard. The goal is simple, more detail, cleaner edges, same ending. This is the 8GB base pass without the Spatial Upscaler. I use this version to find the shot, the prompt, the framing, the first and last frame, and the motion idea. It is fast enough to iterate. But I do not treat this as the final render. On a busy scene like this, the base pass can get the motion right, but small faces and fine details can fall apart. So once the direction works, I run the keeper through the Spatial Upscaler and the second frame lock. That is the polish pass. Left is the base pass, right is the Spatial Upscaler pass. Same idea, same setup, but now the face is cleaner, the edges hold better, and the shot is much closer to a final render. So the workflow is simple. Use the lighter base pass to test more prompts faster. Then, when one version is worth keeping, run only that keeper through the Spatial Upscaler. So the full workflow is simple. First, I use the base pass to search. I test the prompt, the framing, the first and last frame, and the motion ID. The prompt is where I describe the motion, not just the image. The frame already gives the model the subject. The prompt tells it how the shot should move. Then I check the path between the first frame and the last frame. The guides are what keep that path from drifting. If the middle feels wrong, this is one of the first places I look. If the ending is correct, but the middle of the move feels forced, I use the transition layer. It helps the shot travel from one frame to the other more smooth. Then when I find a motion route that works, I lock that seed value. The next run is not pixel perfect, but it follows the same idea again. And only when the shot is actually worth keeping, I run the polish pass. Do not wait for the slow polish pass every time you're only testing ideas. Find the keeper first, then upscale it, lock it again, and make it clean. So this is the pattern. Search fast, control the path, lock what works, and polish only the keeper. Instead of trying to generate one long video in a single pass, I build it as a chain of smaller controlled shots. That matters, because most consumer GPUs do not have enough VRAM to comfortably push long, high-quality generations all at once. So the practical workflow is simple. Make a short shot, lock the ending, use that ending as the start of the next shot, and keep extending the sequence piece by piece. It is not just a workaround. It gives you more control over the story, the motion, and the final image quality. The free workflow is linked in the description. I will also include the auto installer, so you can set it up without rebuilding everything manually. If you want more LTX workflow tests like this, subscribe to the channel.